I don't want to always be the old guy that also, says it was harder in my day, which in some ways I genuinely believe that.
So we should give these dudes a grace period, or hell no, we shouldn't.
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Ricky Carmichael clinched the title for the Motocross Championship. He is the best that ever has been.
Chad Reed is going to do it all today. He is going to win the race at Budds Creek and the 2009 Lucas Oil AMA Pro Motocross Championship.
I feel like it's complete. I feel like I got a lot more fight in me.
Yes, he does. Welcome to Title 24, presented by NBC Sports. I'm Ricky Carmichael. I got a special co-host today. RV couldn't be with us, and I brought in my buddy and longtime rival. Had some great battles with him, Chad Reed. I know you guys are going to absolutely love the show with Chad. Glad to have him on. Before we get cracking, we got to thank our fantastic partners, Quadlock, Boxo, Dunlop, Cardo, and Guts. Appreciate all the support and being a part of Title 24. And straight right to it, I'm going to get in the call from Cardo. My man, Chad. Chad, first of all, I appreciate you coming on today. I know people are going to be absolutely stoked to hear what you got to say. And first and foremost, bud, how the hell have you been?
Been good. And again, thanks for the invite. It's always good times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Crazy, huh?
so what's going on? First and foremost, kiddos are good, right? You guys got through the Loretta Lynn qualifiers. What's cracking? What have you been doing? Like, what's your day to day for the people who don't know what's going on? Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, so we just got through with we finished off Supercross, which I helped out the Club MX team, and then I finished up that position and kind of just wanted to have the summer to give more time to the kids. This is a summer that we're gonna just kind of lock in. The kids did Loretta's, and unfortunately, it rained at Muddy Creek. Imagine that. Every time I've been there, it's rained, and so anyway, Kaya had a really small crash and actually broke a collarbone, and she picked it right back up. I watched it, didn't even know, and she finished 2 laps with a broken collarbone. So she's a beast. She's gnarly. Tate riding awesome. He was kind of like a top 3 guy, top 5 guy in all the races, but he just doesn't have enough racing experience. Made little mistakes, crashed. Kind of crashed out of his tickets. And he would have made it as an alternate, but Ellie and I have chosen to not go that route. We're kind of trying to make plans for this year and 27. He has a good amount of natural talent, and so I'm trying to create a racing environment, not just like I feel like he's what I would call a little kid. He's really light. We went to the 250 maybe a year prior to what we really should have. But the situation that we had to work with, I moved him up. And so with that said, we've just been, fundamentals, and his fundamentals have come a long way. Now it's time to start going after the races and more chasing some speed, and the speed's naturally there, but it needs to come from, him being a teenager and wanting to go.
Yeah, it's we talked about it on last week's pod with RV's 2 boys, and the progress that they've made in a short amount of time. Chad, it's crazy. He's so immersed in it, but I get to see it from a 30,000 foot view, and I'm always telling him, like, dude, I know you want him to do well, I know you want him to do this, but like, they were way over here 8 to 10 months ago. And then now they've made such huge leaps and bounds. And like, when I watch Tate ride, I think about him 2 years ago to where he is now. Yeah, maybe he's not getting the race results, but the pedigree is there. And I trust what you're doing with him. And I feel like I think personally, and you can tell anybody you want, I think getting him ready for Supercross is probably the ideal thing, and racing at the same time. Would you say you're a little more focused towards Supercross with him?
I mean, literally, as soon as we're done with this show, I have a phone call with track builders, and so you know, the big picture is you always want to be at the national championship at Loretta Lynn's. But with not being there, it actually gives me more cards to play. Getting him on Supercross, potentially going to Australia in September, October, November, December. And he'll get to race a 5-round series down there if we choose to do that. So he has, again, I think to compare RV's children and mine, they have access to things that most kids don't. And that fast tracks a lot of things is what I'm seeing in my experience. The downside is we're so busy as parents, when we're kind of pulled here, there, and everywhere. The reason why RV is not on the show is he's at Mammoth. He's in the grind. And so it's hard because you have a passion and you have a thing that we need to do as parents, as working people, and not yes, I'm retired, but I feel like I'm busier than I've ever been in my life, and I'm loving it. And so you just got to try to find the path. Like, okay, now the fundamentals are all there. How do we now go racing? And so it's trying to use my knowledge, my experience, my contacts. How do I race him in Europe? How do I race him in Canada? How do I take him to Australia? How do I race him here in the US? Because for me personally, it's not all about Loretta Lynn's. I think that there's a much bigger picture than that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the reason that I say that, I think of, first and foremost, I think of you. You didn't grow up going to Loretta Lynn's, and you're one of the best guys ever to race a dirt bike. Your accomplishments in Supercross and motocross are some and better than most that have ever done it. So that you're an example of that. At the same time, with respect to Loretta's, I think it's a great platform, especially for kids over here. Obviously, it's a little bit easier for kids to get to Loretta's and their route to get there, rather than being from a different country, obviously. But
it's a national championship. It's honestly, it's one of the single greatest events ever. Once you're there, getting there.
Right.
As a foreigner, I have my opinions.
Yeah.
The regionals are the gnarliest races I've ever been to in my life. Like, I will say that if you can weather regionals, you are so set up for anything in life. Like, it's like they are intense.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Reedy, because I can remember like when I was going through that process, and I've never talked about this until now. I felt like there was more pressure at the regional than there was at Loretta's, because like you just said, dude, if you don't perform at the highest level at the regional, it don't matter how good you are, because you ain't going to Loretta's, right?
Yeah, they're gonna drop those gates at Loretta's and you ain't there. And Tate's the perfect example. Like, I genuinely, as a dad, that has, like, I call a spade a spade. Tate's good enough to fight for a top 10 in the B class. Like, I genuinely believe that he's good enough to fight for it, but yet the kid he wasn't good enough because he didn't have, he's a teenager. He wants to win when he didn't need to win yet. And all the things that I could spell out and why he tripped over himself every time. But for me, it's easier to work with a kid that messes it up because he just wants to win than somebody who I have to get the whip out and try to
not being fast.
I actually got to slow him down.
Yeah, right. Not being, I'd rather have speed any day of the week than a kid that's not fast. And that, I swear, at times, dude, before we get into our show, I swear that sometimes, having that speed, it could be your worst enemy, because it's, what do you do with it? So anyhow, there you go. All right, let's get into it. So there's been some chatter before we get into the 450. I know your passion for racing and, like having a race team. You had a hell of a race team when you had 22 Motorsports. Some great people working on that race team as well. What's up with this rumor going around with Michael Jordan perhaps wanting to get into the two-wheel space? And I know that you do. Any truth to that? You feel at liberty to talk about it? If not, we understand. But what are all these rumors happening, bro?
Yeah, I think that wherever there's smoke, there's fire, right? I think the biggest thing is everything you just reflected on. I mean, I love racing. I love going to the races. I love packing a bag every Thursday, Friday to get on a plane and go. I'm the most ridiculous human on earth in the fact that like I'm the retired guy that misses all of those things. I don't miss the racing anymore. It's strange. I really thought that the racing would be what I missed the most. But the normal of packing a bag, going to Supercross races and seeing, I haven't been around my family for 25 years and I feel like the racing community is my family, and so, you know, not specifically reflecting on Jordan. Jordan would be a partner that I would absolutely love and be super stoked. But there's multiple people that I'm talking to, with the hope and the goal of coming racing and going racing with a team in 2028. I'm reading the thing that they're leasing factory Hondas. I can promise you that I will not be involved in any team that's leasing any equipment. We will run a race team at the highest level, and we'll find partners that wanna win races and go to the top. And if that's Michael Jordan, and then aligned with the manufacturer, that's the goal. So again, I love it. I have a kid that absolutely loves it and wants to do it. I have a family that supports all things racing. So yeah, we're planning
There
2028.
you go.
So yeah.
Good stuff. There you go, people. You heard it from the horse's mouth. I have no doubt that it would be for sure special. I agree with you on the lease program. You know what I mean? And just knowing you a little more than the people that are tuned into this show. Yeah, you're not going to enter a deal where your hands are going to be tied. That's for sure. Right? There ain't no shot
You, you can't make a career based on doing what's best for you and what's best for the end game of winning races and contending for a title. So you
Yeah.
can't, now that I'm not the athlete, you still the mindset doesn't change. So you have to provide the new athletes and the new riders the same opportunity and the same beliefs that I have. So
There you go.
yeah,
I
ready. I
love
got
it.
a year and a half to start poaching some people back and trying to figure out where to go and who to partner with. But
Yeah.
those are all
Hey,
fun things for me. Like it that's exciting. I love the sport. There's
oh,
things that
dude,
I
I
always
mean,
question about it, but I absolutely love it. There's not a better sport in the world than
yeah,
motocross or supercross.
you and RV, dude, it's like I mean, yeah, your love for it and your passion for it. And in the kids thing, like my kids didn't race, right? So it's a little bit different for me. I'm sure if they would, I'd be as immersed in it as you two are, just because we do it right or we don't do it at all. But I'm not. My kids don't do that. So I see you two, and I'm just like, damn, I can't imagine doing what they're doing. But you love the
It's kind of
sport.
funny, like when you love it so much to have kids, because like let's be honest, Ellie loves it when I'm doing it or the kids are doing it, but outside of that, she could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Like last week we're at the beach and we happened to be there over the weekend and my kids are just driving me crazy like that I got to download the Peacock app and watch the races and it's kind of nice because that's what I'm thinking, but you're trying to be the good guy and oh, we're on vacation, it's not bikes, but then it's like mama's outvoted. So you always got a built-in teammate, with
Yeah.
the kids that want to watch it as much as you do.
Yeah, that makes it so much better. All right, dude. So the fun stuff here. I can't wait to hear what you had to say, dude. And everybody tuned into Title 24 today. This guy right here, I mean, Chad, as the knowledge that you bring to the table, the insight that you bring and your openness. Sometimes it's not always a popular opinion, but you are not scared to tell it like it is. And 98% of the time, it's you're right on target. So I'm excited for today in your honesty and again what you've seen. The guts, hottest seat of the moment this weekend. Reedy, we talked about it before we hit record today. Hunter, he had a phenomenal weekend. We didn't, like you said, we didn't get to see a lot of it. A boring race is good for someone. It was certainly him. I'm not surprised by this performance. Why? Because he's capable. From the little bit that you saw, give us your insight on Hunter, where he's at. Has he surprised you these first 3 rounds? And just your take on it.
Yeah, I think that the Hunter we got this weekend was equally as good or better, and in my opinion, better than we had at Pala. It was interesting to see, a lot of the hype obviously was shined on the 2, the 2025 champions, Haiden moving up and Jett coming back from injury, and with fairness to that, I think that was it. And then, but I think Supercross champions go through a little bit of a almost like a hangover first round of motocross, where I feel like his loss gave him the motivation and to just move forward. And he was solid at Pala, but like this past weekend, unfortunately, as a dad sitting at home that, tries to point out and watch the races with my children, like we didn't even get to see him. He was gone. I think he was more dominant and more solid this weekend than he was at Pala. So, probably the things my takeaway from the little that I heard from him on the podium and post race interviews was bike setup. It sounded like he made some changes this past weekend. Again, I don't trust that he's always going to tell us the truth. He made a comment that he went back to Pala settings. That could be true. It could be something similar to it. We'll never know. But whatever it was on point, because he rode away from everybody, and his brother included.
Yeah, I mean, how hard it is too. Like, I go back to our days when we're racing, and not so much motocross, but supercross. And the people tuned in today, that's you're listening or you're watching us. It's so hard, in my opinion, to pull away from a dude. And you are one of the best guys at it, pulling an audible and finding out what your competitor is doing in front of you, and making those mid-race adjustments. I call it mid-race, but in the moment adjustments, and going out there and fighting for the win and winning a lot. So that's what was most impressive to me, Chad, is how Hunter was just able to pull away, and his brother wasn't able to really respond. That's as you know, it's not easy to do, and it's impressive, especially, listen how good Jett is, super talented on a motorcycle. So that's what I was impressed. But at the same time, like you said, I'm really not surprised. As far as Jett goes, talking about Jett, pretty solid, right? Like 2-2. I feel like, and I want to know what your opinion is, I feel like Jett this season, and I could be wrong, I don't know this, I'm just completely speculating, Chad. I feel like this year, because of that injury in his foot, I feel like he's not going to push it. I don't think that he should push it. And when he's not 100% comfortable and his bike setup isn't right, or let's just say the track is sketch, I feel like you're going to see styles of rides like this from him. What do you agree with that or no?
I think that the one thing, everyone always reflects on his talent and his riding, his technique, his how he picks apart a racetrack. But I think a lot of people forget just how clever he is at the decision making of what it takes to be a champion, and I've never won every moto of a national championship, especially as a rookie. But to manage that and the expectation, and you can reflect on that since you've done it twice, big guy. When you can do that and you can dominate at that level, and when you don't have the feeling, because I specifically would take Moto 2 this weekend. He for the most part had the whole shot pretty clean, and he kind of got beat up right away by Hunter, and you could see Jett throwing down and trying to do his normal, trying to get track position, because once you have track position, it is nice because you get, the freedom of entering the turn how you want to turn. You're not taking roost, you're not pulling tear-offs, all these things. And he just seemed like he couldn't go like he normally could. And so for me to make that call of like, hey, it's just not my day, those are how championships are won, and I don't know that it's really anything related to his injury or just his DNA of how he's always raced since being on a 450. He's really clever in that part, and I would say that, in the family when we're watching, of course I point out things that he does well on a motorcycle, but for me it's always the mindset. He sees the bigger picture, and sometimes the bigger picture, like let's relate it to last weekend. Hunter possibly had the same pace, if not was even better than Jett last weekend, but yet Hunter made the mistakes, didn't go 2-2, didn't minimize the gap to the points loss. Where this past weekend Jett, it was reversed. He didn't have he didn't have the pace, but made made a good decision to go 2-2 and lost 6 points.
Yeah, dude, a hell of a, yeah, that's great insight. I didn't think of that. You're exactly right. Yeah, like Hunter should have pulled back a little bit if he wasn't 100% comfortable and just taken the 3-3 or the 2-2, rather, if Jett was just a little more on par. Like, again, that's good. I didn't think of that. As far as Haiden goes, from what you saw this weekend, any surprises for you? What you saw this weekend or the last several rounds? Do you think he's on schedule? Are there things that have impressed you about him? Do you think that he's doing exactly? Yeah, where are you at with Haiden?
I think if you put the TV and your social media on mute and you didn't listen to him prior to the season, and you delete out Jett's unbelievable rookie season, I think Haiden is crushing it. I genuinely believe that he's riding a 450 really, really well. As a rookie, it's funny to me because he's kind of known as a wild man, but no part of his riding outside of, the odd encounter with a couple of riders when he gets caught up in the moment. He's always really calculated, he's really clever, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think he's riding the 450 really, really well. He hasn't thrown himself on the ground outside of the Colorado crash, and it was a bit of a strange crash anyway. But I mean, you're looking at him here on screen and it's like he's riding clever. And I would say that another thing that I personally see that Haiden does is I look at Supercross and his weakness was whoops, and you could see that was what Cole did better than him. This year he went to work and he got so much better at the whoops, and I see his style on motocross. Like he still revs it in the air. That's his go-to. And a 450 that's heavy and there's a lot of inertia, and so revving it in the air is somewhat of it's just easy rather than moving your body to counter it. And he is a shorter rider, and so therefore he just relies on inertia of the rear wheel rather than Jett countering the weight. We'll throw some short jokes. You should know how that feels, right?
I do. I do. Of course. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But
100%.
So he just used the throttle for that rather than having to counter, by head over the crossbar and things like that. But I see Haiden, he's forever changing the little things that he needs to change to be better. And I really think if you take away, and again, we can't, but just I think he's having a really, really solid 450 season, to be honest. As a rookie, I think he's punching above average. He's going against two guys that for the last 2 years have shown that no one in the world can hang with them. He just adds flavor to it, which I love. It brings me back to our silly days of yourself, James and I, and we didn't have the social media, and I don't think that we were as vocal as he is, but we did it in our own little ways, in different ways that we took jabs at each other, and so I like that. It brings entertainment to the series.
Yeah, dude. That, ladies and gentlemen, everybody tuned in, dude. That was incredible insight, Chad. Just your knowledge, and the key thing that I would love for people to really consider and take away from what Chad just said, and he's so right about first and foremost, take away, put social media on mute. Whatever Haiden has said, what he does, that's kind of, that's his brand, and that's great. But he is doing a fantastic job. And then what Chad said, you have to consider the dudes that he's racing against and the level that they're at. And that's not to take away from anybody else in the field, but those two guys pack a different punch. You heard it from Chad. I've said it before. And Chad is 100% right. I mean, you have to have realistic expectations for Haiden as well. Like, you'd be crazy to just think he's going to go out there and just dominate these dudes. They're some of the best guys. And like Chad said, the last several years, they've been top of the sport, pinnacle of the sport. Yeah, did Hunter come up short on the Supercross series? Of course he did. But overall, he's been up front on a consistent basis the last several years. And then of course, Jett. So good stuff. You talk about putting the social media stuff on mute and the broadcast, and when these guys talk. This next segment, we're gonna break that down a little bit. There were some fireworks. We kind of been waiting, but great opening segment there. Give us a couple minutes. We're gonna pay some bills. When we come back, we're gonna break down the drama off the track. And I can assure you that this next segment is going to be a lot of fun. We'll be right back with you.
A little bit of the elephant in the room from this morning. There was basically a little bit of a back and forth between yourself and Haiden. Can you tell us about it from your perspective and kind of what went down?
Yeah, my tire was full of mud, so I just wanted to clean it out. Normally it works better with no mud in between the grooves, so I just wanted to clean it out real quick.
Take us through from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. I just went by him, I asked if he was okay, and I get flipped off. Whatever. No, I'm sure if they knew what I said, I'd probably get fined. But no, I'm just playing. It was good. I love banter. It gets me fired up. I mean, you guys can see that. I was going for it today. It gives me something to chase, and obviously Jett's the guy. I don't know how much longer he can use the ankle excuse. Like, bro, he's gone 1-1 the last 2 weekends, and I feel like it's kind of, honestly, I think he can fall back on now. So I think he's good to go, honestly. He's riding good. Hunter's riding good. And I think it's just a matter of time before I can run with those guys.
He does. He never minces words, dude. You got to, and 9 times out of 10, the dude rises to the occasion. So take it away, champ. What do you think of all that?
You're going to set me up?
No, I just like, where are you at with it? I just think it's funny. Like,
it is funny. My personal opinion on it is that I love it. It changes our, let's call it, the last 10 years of vanilla. And it starts to bring back some flair, and you got guys that genuinely just hate to lose and want to win, want to battle. I think if you divide them up individually, I think that Jett's Jett, right? Like, he has the 450 experience, he has the wins, he's continuing to show that he's still the class of the field. Haiden is closer than it appears. I think he's doing really well. He's managing it. He's still doing his thing, and he's still talking. And this past week, you start seeing Jett doing this. And I think, as much as I hate to say it, but I think that this weekend, it would be hard for me to say that Haiden didn't affect Jett's weekend. Jett's single lap was so impressive. And then he backed it up with this crash that was so out of character. And it was just, in my opinion, it was Jett not in present time. And it was Jett just having more thoughts, more ideas, more things going on than maybe what he's used to. Because that's not actually, it's borderline close to, he got ripped off to the right side. His ankle that he's, is coming back from his right side. So many things like that can go wrong in so many ways so quickly. and Haiden, again, stirring the pot, and he takes little jabs in the right areas. He says, I'm close, I'm learning, and I wouldn't, what's the word you would use? Like, I wouldn't take that lightly. I genuinely think that as a guy that was always beat up by you and James in outdoors specifically, um, any little thing that I could take that motivated me to be working on Monday, and it was never about showing up Monday frustrated and just taking, it was like, what can I take this weekend where I can learn to do something better this week so I can be closer next week. And maybe my words weren't always as perfect as like spelling it out in the most perfect way. I was a little more, just kind of rough around the edges, and maybe still am, but
No, you're
I
good.
I was always chasing something to learn, to take from the two of you that could make me better and work on it. And how do I implement that into my own writing and naturally bring it to the races? And sometimes it worked next week. Sometimes I needed a month. Um, it's perfect timing. We have a weekend off, so Haiden can go to work on those things that he got to see um, in his own way, whatever that is. He's not going to tell us that, what he learned from them. He's going to, it's a calculation of what he sees and what he can feel that he can work on. And I'm excited to see him continue to get better, and then just see how that rivalry continues to heat up. At this point, it's more of it's a screenplay rivalry. We haven't seen a head-to-head battle with him really. Jett has had the upper hand, but at some point, I do believe that we're gonna get to see it.
Oh, 100%. I will tell you this, and I've said this several times, but I of all the people that I've raced, I feel like you were undoubtedly the best rider that I ever raced with, that had the ability to do exactly what you just explained, to figure out, where to make up time. And I hated when anytime you would be behind me, or whatever it might have been, because I knew that you could learn so much and you were so good at executing, getting better and finding those areas where you needed to close the gap. Again, I've never seen anybody better than it. And again, I've raced some great guys. It was so impressive. Like you talk about, you would go to work and you'd find areas, like if I gave you a crumb or Stu gave you a crumb, dude, you were going to take the whole loaf the next weekend. And it was just super impressive. And to this day, I have no clue how the hell you were able to do it. I think it's something, and I could be wrong, it's just my opinion, Reedy. I think you can't teach that ability of what you were able to do is super impressive. And that's, I mean, you can hang your hat on just how well you were able to do that. And I feel
Well, on that note, a question that I've always wanted to ask you, because I think that you're the perfect one. I think that
Mhm.
if you look at the Lawrence camp, they work with Johnny O, an
Yeah.
individual that was really close to you during all your career.
Mhm.
And then obviously, and I don't know how much your mom works with Haiden.
Mhm.
Every picture I see or video, it seems like she's somewhere there in the background. So I'm assuming she's influencing in a positive way on a day-to-day basis. How does like what does your mom bring to the table for Haiden? And then on the opposite side, what does Johnny O bring to the table for the Lawrences? Like how do you see that playing out? And what does this next weekend look like? Since you're being in that seat.
Yeah. Great question. No one's ever asked me that. It's unique. Chad, you know my relationship with Johnny and just how instrumental he was in my career. I credit a lot of my racecraft, my knowledge of the motorcycle and what changes do what to it, despite how I ran my setup. I would never recommend that to anyone. I know we can laugh about it now, but even though my setup was what it was, I knew exactly what I wanted from the bike, how I needed it to perform so I could perform at the highest level. And Johnny taught me that. He taught me to learn what these changes do, on the motorcycle to eventually. So the more I knew about the motorcycle, the more it was going to help me on setup. And you just have to think that he has that same effect with the Lawrences. I say Dazzy, he's way more involved than my dad ever was on the motorcycle. So I think there's a balance there between Osho and Dazzy. So I think from a race standpoint, a race strategy standpoint, I think Johnny is key for the Lawrence camp as well. You know Johnny's playbook. You raced against it for many years, and you've talked to Johnny for many years after my career with him. I think from my mom's standpoint, as far as what she would bring to the table for like Haiden, it's not necessarily, she doesn't work with Haiden. I know a lot of people from the outside, what they see on social media and like when she's up at the goat farm, really, she just goes there and does what she's told to do. She doesn't have the voice, I don't think, or I know for a fact, she doesn't have the voice with the riders like, say, she would have back in my day, Chad. Like, again, she was there in my day. She was there all the time, helping me, helping the riders. At the end of the day, I was going to do what I wanted to do, and she was there to hold me accountable. She doesn't have that kind of influence. I think she just goes out there. Number one, it's her identity. It's what she does, and it's on a volunteer basis. So if she can share some knowledge with whether it's Haiden or any other riders at the Star facility when they invite my mom out there on a weekly basis, I think that she can probably give them little nuggets. But it's not the day-to-day like you would think, especially from like how Johnny works with the Lawrence family, that he's way more entrenched on that. Now, I will say this. I don't ever put my mom in a position to where like, I don't ever ask her like, hey, you know, like, what did Haiden do? She's actually pretty, it's crazy. Yeah. She's super quiet. There'll be I'll go to a race weekend and say like, one of the riders from the Star guys crashed and I don't know anything. Like I get there and I'm like, dude, what's up, Mom? You didn't tell me anything. It's like, I'm not saying anything. I'm like, all right, no problem. And I put
that's ingrained. I mean, that's what we used to do, right? Like it's funny that like what you just told me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, essentially like my interpretation of what you're saying is your mom plays a small role and Johnny plays quite a large role.
Yeah.
And I, for somebody who loves the sport, consults, tries to contribute, there's always somebody holding you at an arm length. No one wants to give you the full reins to truly make a difference. And so what I see is the Lawrences have really taken, the Johnny O playbook and they're kind of using it. And it's like, if you see how they're winning, I mean, this past weekend, both guys commented on bike setup. Johnny, I'm sure, plays a role in that.
He does.
So like all those little things, I don't think it's the place. I think that you and I can, I know what you're saying, but I don't know that the world needs to know that on here. We should be getting paid for that.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
I'm not gonna spell that out for the world to know, but for me, that's the answer is the difference of how much an individual can affect the outcome, and that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, you're exactly right. My mom is on a volunteer basis at the Star facility. Just for everyone, I get asked a lot, and I'm glad that you asked this. Yeah, my mom is like, she just isn't solely focused on Hunter. She goes out there, Swanee needs help. Hey, take these guys lap times for the day, and if it happens to be working or taking lap times for the 450 guys that day, then you know what? Then she gets to share stories if they even want to hear stories, or she gets to hold them accountable and be like, hey, you should have done this, or we're going to do it over. Like they get to have that experience. Whereas Johnny is that he is a part of the Lawrence team. And in my opinion, and I'm probably being biased, Chad, because I know there's a lot of great guys out there like Johnny, I mean, I think you do a great job. I talked about it relentlessly on the broadcast, what you brought to that Club MX team. No matter, regardless of the bikes or whatever, how good the team is, I think that you are responsible for a lot of their fantastic results. Just because I know what you bring to the table, a lot like what Johnny does. And what I'm saying, and I'm going to land my plane here, I think that it would be a massive blow to if they didn't keep Johnny around. I think he keeps everything grounded. I think he's, the middleman that not necessarily glue to that program, but I think he brings way more to the table than what a lot of people probably give him credit for. Not even necessarily credit, Chad. I think just he plays a bigger role than what it seems like. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, racing, just there's so many different ways to win, right? And I think that it's hard to, like, I watch it and I understand the full picture of what it takes, where a lot of people just see the winning and they think that he's on the best bike, and where it's not always that, it's not that simple.
No, it's not that simple. And that's where, when you don't have the best bike, you know how to get the best out of that rider and get the best out of that bike. And at the end of the day, from a championship standpoint, you do the best you can do with what you got, whether it's riding ability, whether it's bike setup. And I feel like that's what Johnny brings to the table. And then now, like, they're learning, I say the Lawrences, they're learning what that's like. And so do they need to have as much help from him? Probably not. But still, that, those tangibles and that base and that core system, and that, the core MO is still there. And you said it perfectly. That's, if Jett's not comfortable, he's going to get a 2-2 and he's going to play the championship game. He's so good at that. Just like
one last question on the subject.
Yeah.
Like we never really had teammates that we ever had to worry about.
Nope.
And so every team we were on, we were always the lead guy, and so you rally that team around you, for good or bad. You can create and rally with them, or you can, destruct and, tear a team apart as quickly as you can wrap it around you. And I know, like, they're brothers, and so they don't know any different. But there's got to be a dynamic amongst the team that is interesting. And I believe that they're just brothers, so they probably never know any different. But for me, as an individual, just the word individual, I was always just self. And, I didn't have a brother, or anyone else on the team. And so I was always kind of the driving force of that particular team's success. It's interesting to me, like, when you have all the same people and the same suspension guy and the same trainers, and you, like, sometimes it's like, I actually think the managing side of that, and how, and again, I'm not close with the Lawrences. A lot of people think that the Australian thing, that I would, naturally fit there. They purchased my old property and things like that, but I'm not on the inner circle. But I really think that what the family has done, and their dynamic of keeping it, ethical and positive for the most part to the outside world. Just because as a racer, I know what it would be like to race, somebody that close. The only thing I have as a gauge is I grew up racing. My older cousin was my main competition when I went pro racing, and but we were never on the same team. We were never doing anything. Like, I still wanted to kick his ass, like I still wanted to, like, if there was anything I could do to get the upper hand. And I just, for me, from the outside, you don't see a lot of that. And I think that would be really difficult to, get, not get that inner team rivalry going or whatever, and
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but just it's nice, like, as a dad, coming off a Father's Day weekend, like, it's pretty cool that you see two siblings battling at the highest level of our sport, and it seems like they genuinely are happy for each other, and I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, I think the family dynamic, it's something special. And I think Chad, you're right. Like, you were always the top guy. You were really good at getting the team to rally around you, even and the most important thing when you say that I'd like, even young riders coming up, things aren't always going to be great. The bike isn't always going to be great, but the team guys are giving it 120%. They want to win just as much as you want to win. And I think as a rider, you have to realize, hey, we can't get the impossible out of this motorcycle. As long as your team guys are doing the best that they can possibly do, you have to respect that. You can't get bummed on them. Again, you got to go back to realistic expectations with the bike and how it's going to perform. It can only do so much, right? And I think that you were good at that. You knew, like, hey man, my bike is only going to work this good. As long as we can get it to there, until we make a major change, I got to be happy with that, make do with it. And it's going to be what it's going to be. Similar to me on the 03 Honda, like, it was only going to get so good unless they completely changed the engine design. And you just have to make do with it, but you still rally around. And I feel like, yes, the brothers have done a great job. Everyone over there, the ship is steering in the right direction. Everyone's rowing in the right direction, like you said. And it's weird because I don't feel like there's a lot of inner battle, whereas I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I don't even know how to explain it.
That's really what my question was, right? Like, you're designed to win, and at a certain point, like, I respect that they haven't gone there yet. And I think that, to be fair, I think Hunter is a step better than he was last year, and so I think he's genuinely a bigger threat to Jett this year than he was last year. I don't know. I'm just interested to see how that plays out, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to create something of nothing. It's just, as an individual who did it, on my own and rallied the team around you, I also knew what it was like to have somewhat of a competitive teammate, and how that felt, in my Villemin years or my Tim Ferry years. Just those individuals, they opposed a certain threat, but in the big picture, I was the lead guy,
Yeah.
And
Look at it this way. Look at it. I've often thought this, Chad. Look at it as a business entity. You have the Lawrence umbrella, and then you have, in this silo, you have Jett. In this silo, you have Hunter, right? So say they're going to be teammates throughout the entirety of their career, right? Whether it's 7 years, 8 years, however much longer they want to race. And then, okay, throughout in this entity, they accumulate, $50 million over the time that they're going to be racing, or 30, whatever that number is going to be, 30 to 50. Okay. And then when they retire or they're done racing, all right, Hunter, we're going to give you 25 million. Jett, we're going to give you 25 million, or whatever that is. Imagine if it, like, sometimes I think that I'm like, actually, it's just one big entity. They're brothers and they're racing. And at the end of their career, they're just gonna, they're going to give residuals out to each other. And they could build a concept like that and race like that. You see what I'm saying?
Take the 1-2s all the way to the bank.
Yeah, take the 1-2s to the bank, and at the end of the day, you have this pot of money, and then you just distribute the earnings out after it's all said and done, like selling out to a private equity group or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but one dude's wall looks like yours in the background, and the other one's looks a little less. So.
Yeah, but if you think about it from a money standpoint, a business standpoint, I'm going off in left field here, but
we should have worked together, bro.
Dude, I know. Look at the jokes on us. All right, before we go to break, I talked to this. Like, I think about, is there anybody that you thought would do a little bit better? And where I'm going with this is I've expected more out of Jorge Prado. I think that he's underperformed. I didn't like what I saw this week in the second moto. And what I mean by that, Chad, is like, he was racing hard, or no, AP was all over him, right? And he was blocking him, and like you could tell he was almost on, like, it looked to me like he was on life support, right? And we've raced against guys like that. Like, they'll just cut you off. They'll, the rider wide bike. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying, like, it is what it is. It happens all the time. But then normally when you pass them, they just throw out their sail and it's game over. Well, dude, then, like, it looked like he was on life support, and then AP passes him, and then he just dogs the dude out for like 5 more laps. Like, I think, listen, I expected more from him. Where are you at with Prado?
I got to be around Jorge a lot last year, and so, understanding his shortcomings and his, the struggles that he had last year, and then how much, let's call it, how much more positive he is about the bike and the team, and being back to his more normal. I probably would agree that I expected him to be a little more in it, kind of more similar to the Pala weekend. I think, to be fair, if you break it down, I mean, he's done a million laps around Paula because he's California based, and KTM being based right there. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Him,
I didn't think of that. That's good. I didn't think of that.
I mean, he started the year out as a 2-2, and so, I mean, I think that he was good. And then the next weekend he was there, but then he had a DNF. Then he had to have, he came from a far outside gate. Luckily they had, for him, he had a red flag, and then he was able to have a little bit better. But so I agree. But then I would say that what I'm about to say, we can carry into the next segment of some of the lights guys and Cole Davies. But learning American tracks and the AMA racing outdoors is something, like, when I showed up in AMA motocross, I was 20 years old. I had quite a lot of experience. I'd already been pro since I was 16. I raced in Australia, raced in New Zealand, raced in England, raced GPs, and
All
so,
over.
like, I felt like I was well versed in motocross and actually a really good motocross rider. But there's just something about the AMA Nationals and the way the AMA riders, like, specifically speaking, more just like the American riders race.
Yeah.
And it takes some learning and some getting used to. And so, is that playing a role? Is the riding and the racing and the way, like, you see him, sometimes he looks left-footed, like he wants to be here, but he's over here because the rut doesn't, like when we race the nations, for instance, like, there's typically only 6 AMA racing guys, and then their whole field is GP guys. The track, it develops in a totally different way, like ways where, like, we learn it, but it's kind of like it's really different than the US. And so I think he's possibly struggling on that. Like, he just looks left-footed, like he's always in the wrong place at the wrong time, and and doesn't look as flowy, and as, maybe, because when you think about Mount Morris, like, it has that hard base with, let's call it, wood chips, wet, slimy dirt on top. Like, that's kind of very Euro-like. Like, if there's ever a track that a Euro is gonna do well, I would think this past weekend would be it. So that even so for me, this past weekend's result is more alarming than anything, in just the way that the track this past weekend is more Euro than let's say a Redbud's going to be.
Yeah.
So
yeah, good stuff. I agree with you. Yeah, definitely Mount Morris is for sure more techie. You talked about it, like, tendencies, like Supercross guys that are better in Supercross normally do a little bit better at a track like High Point, is what you told me.
yeah, I mean, I was saving it for the Cole Davies comment, but like my first 2 1-1s were Mount Morris. Like, my first 1-1 overall in the lights class in 02 was at Mount Morris, and then in 09 I went 1-1 in the 450 class. It is a track that's techie. It's got a lot of off cambers. It seems like it has a little less off cambers than it used to. But it used to have, like, a kind of a harder, slippery base, ruddy in areas, and you had to be gentle on the throttle. You almost had to dance around the track a little bit more. You couldn't just, bolt to the wall and full send. Yeah, so Mount Morris has always been a track that I felt was, and again, and it rains a lot there. That we didn't have rain this year. It looked like it was going to rain at one point,
Yep.
but I've raced a lot of mud races there too.
Yep, there you go. All right, so talking about Cole Davies, we're going to switch gears. Great stuff, man. I could sit here and talk all day. Cole Davies nabs his first Motocross overall win. Should it have come sooner? I have strong opinions about this that we are going to break down coming up here in just a couple more minutes, so hang tight with us.
First 3 rounds have been terrible, so it's nice to turn it around and ride like I know I can. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like with me not riding any of these tracks before, to go out and qualify first in the first sessions, I mean, you have to get the track down quick. This track's good. It's probably one of my favorites now, if not probably my favorite I've raced yet, so yeah.
Selfishly thought it would be a little bit even earlier this year, but we were so focused on getting that title done on both coasts with Haiden and him. We didn't really ride a whole lot of outdoors. I knew once we got to a track like this, it would really go to his skill set. We really worked hard on starts this week, and we're really fortunate with a guy like Cole that once you kind of dial something in, there isn't continue to have to figure it out. He really computes it well. He dials it in, and this will be what you'll see from now on.
Obviously, it's still just your 6th race in pro motocross. What are the things you're still like learning?
That's a hard question. I don't know. I got no answer for you, bro. I don't know. Just learn, bro.
Welcome back to Title 24. Yeah, Chad, just learn, bruh. All right, Dunlop debate. Cole versus the field. Let's go one by one based upon what you saw. First, Cole Davies versus Beaumare. Where are you at with that? Who would you like more moving forward out of those two? Julian's having a hell of a year, by the way, after that gnarly injury. So great job, Juju.
Yeah, I would second that. He's coming back from a really big injury, and what I like about Juju is he's really solid. He's not pushing too hard. I mean, Cole's a family favorite. He's a super rad kid. Like for me as a dad, you respect people for who they are and how they treat your children. And he communicates, plays games with my kids online all the time. So he's a favorite in the house. So it'd be hard for me to go against Cole. And it's hard to not see, young 17, 18-year-old, myself in him. Obviously we have a similar upbringing. He grew up in New Zealand, not Aussie, but just that raw, all this attention, all this media, all the cameras, like everything is so new to him. And you can see, I mean, was kind of laughing at his comment and him, bro, I didn't even know, like he's just, like there's no filter. He's young. And I can relate to that version of him. So again, I would just echo what I said about Jorge. I think when you consider what I said about Jorge and his years of experience, he's a 4-time, I believe, MXGP, MX2, MXGP champion, I think. So much more experience, much more to fall back on. And here we are, Cole's 18, 19, still, like that video just showed, he's on his 6th outdoor national. And I still believe that these tracks, the way of riding, the way of racing, it is unique. It doesn't, I don't care how much experience you have in the big world of motocross, like there is some adaptation that's needed. And I think that I would agree with Will Hahn in the fact that once he learns something, once he has that data in the back of his head, he's able to use it on a consistent basis. And it's not something, and that is what separates, in my opinion, the greats from the good, is that the information doesn't need to be drilled home, every day, every hour, every week. He can take that information and start to have that as his normal going forward. So my pick would be Cole, and I think he's the one that opposes the biggest threat for the championship.
Okay. That's great. I don't have to ask you about the other stuff. So I talked about I had strong feelings, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. And I need you to explain to me or help me understand about when people, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, the difference between Jorge and Cole, but figuring out the tracks and why a lot of these rookies have so much grace period of, well, they got to learn the track, or, well, they're only this age, or, well, this, I can understand Cole's situation because you've kind of touched on it, but I need you to help me understand, because clearly I'm not understanding it properly. And I go back to you when you came over here. Yeah, you had that world experience and a lot of motocross experience on a global platform. But as far like for me, as an example, I only raced 2 tracks in 1997 previous to my rookie season. It was Gatorback and Mount Morris. Those are the only 2 pro tracks that I had been on before I raced. And so, like, I didn't have no grace period, like I was going out there expected to win. Like, you just go out there and you get it done. It's not like, hey, this is a learning year. Do what you do. When you came over in 2002, yeah, did you have global experience? Of course you did. But when I was watching you, I wasn't thinking, oh, well, he gets a pass this year because he's just going to learn the tracks. Dude,
Yeah,
I expected you to win
passes.
No, you didn't. And I expected you to do well every single weekend. Like, I never considered like, yeah, it's a new track for you, but dude, you're one of the best guys in the business. Good guys figure out a way to learn the track, and that helped me understand, like, am I being too hard? Am I not seeing things? Because why didn't we get this grace period? Help
The
me.
Ricky I like.
Help me
You always,
understand, bro. Like, what are we doing here,
you
man?
always take the high road and be the nice guy like this. But I mean, for me, it's a trend of the sport, right? I mean, in general in life, not even the sport, but just in 2026, I think we're so much more acceptable to less than what the expectation is. Sometimes I feel like that's just life. I mean, specifically trying to break down like my comments on like the AMA tracks being different. That's kind of just they race a certain way, like now that I'm involved, like I didn't get to do, I did 0 amateur races in the US as a kid. And then now getting to do it, it's when I go to said track in Alabama or Tennessee or whatever it is that we're racing, they genuinely all race the same, like if I ride, amateur day and have a whatever, and what I see on the track, it's everything that I see at the nationals, and so I think that the way the riding is, it's the same. Opening that up into a different category of like what I see at an amateur level, which is really what we're starting to see in these kids. Like I live at Club MX. I see the way the tracks are prepped, and they're unbelievable to the point where they're too unbelievable. Like I didn't even have watered tracks, let alone prep tracks as a child, or even
Yeah.
as an early pro. We were packing up trucks or vans in my day, and and driving to the closest track in the woods or the bush in Australia, and we would pound out. I blame you for this because I was always an Oakley athlete, and I remember reading something that you used to burn 5 gallons of fuel, which is 20 liters of fuel in Australia. And all I would do is like, I just want to be like Ricky Carmichael one day. And so I would fill up the 5-gallon drum with fuel, mix it up, threw my buddy and we'd ride into the woods, and I would just ride until the fuel ran out, and we'd have just enough to get us back to the van.
Yeah.
And so what I see is guys like the Lawrences, they have more tools in their toolbox because I feel like they have rode different tracks. When it gets hard packed, they can ride it. When it's deep ruddy, they can ride it. At Southwick, they're just fine. Some of the other kids, they're just a little more one-dimensional. They can grab a handful of gas and go fast. But when it gets tricky and the tracks change a little bit, I see a separation. And, four strokes have narrowed that gap. Electronics have even narrowed it more. So they have much more, rider aids than we had. The old, my favorite bike for you, that I wish you had assigned a 10-year contract was the '03 Honda. I think that bike would have been a good career bike for you. Uh,
Yeah, you see sarcasm there, everybody. Yeah, the thing was a beauty,
Yeah.
absolute beauty.
But you still had to ride it like it had no bottom and it was good on top, and you got the most out of what it was, and you rode the tracks and the lines and everything like that. And that's, I think, to answer your question, that's what I see is there it's almost like it's too perfect day to day riding. But when I say that, I can't say it with not my dad hat on. And
Yeah,
as a dad, the bikes are more finicky. There's electronics. There's all these things that can go wrong. I mean, like, it was so rare that we would blow up bikes or you would have a kill switch make a bike shut off. Like, there is a lot more at stake, it seems like, too. So I don't want to always be the old guy that also, says it was harder in my day, which in some ways I genuinely believe that. But then I also see that the future and the new way is a little more finicky as well. And so sometimes everything does need to be a little more perfect to keep it safe.
so am I wrong, or am I like, so we should give these dudes a grace period, or hell no, we shouldn't?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Thank you. Great stuff there. You talked about we talk about Cole and his biggest challenger. You took Cole over Juju, and I agree with you. I just, yeah, for multiple reasons. I feel like despite Seth, how good Seth's been riding, and Levi, and I said this a couple weeks ago, I think the biggest challenger for Cole, and this is total speculation, for the Pro Motocross Championship, I think it's going to be Joe Shimoda.
I have that written down in my notes 100%.
Do
I
you?
think that
Go for it, dude.
well, just because you have to go off of facts and you have to go off the data, and the data that we have available to us of what we've witnessed and watched for the last several years, he's been the second best guy to Haiden, to Jett, to Hunter. Like, he's kind of always been the next guy. The only thing that Joe hasn't done is showed us that he can go and take the bull by the horns and get it done. I mean, he did it in the SMX,
Yep.
championship. But he has yet to show that he can do it like he was last year. Like, last year, he was so impressive he was a little tick off of Haiden, but I mean, I attended a lot of the outdoors last year, and there wasn't a third place guy that was close to Joe. And so I think that, going off of what we just said, where we shouldn't give guys, grace period, Joe needs to be, possibly commented on and held at a higher level. And it's go time. Like, I don't believe that you can do this many more races, and not, like, you don't want to give a guy like Cole Davies some belief that he can win, he can figure these tracks out, and then suddenly he goes on a tear, he puts his, starts together, and then next minute Joe Shimoda is going to find himself in a Haiden Deegan or a Jett Lawrence or a Hunter Lawrence situation where he's the next best guy. So I think that we need to be brutally honest with Joe, and Joe needs to, like, I think he's fit enough, I think he's strong enough, I think he's on a great bike, he's on a great team. From what I saw this weekend, he out of nowhere makes these really aggressive attempts at a start, at a pass, with no real follow through. Like sometimes I feel like he
No
gets so
execution.
frustrated. Yeah,
No
like he would be. It's almost like he can't control his emotions. Like one minute he's like, I'm just gonna take this dude out almost, but then realizes that he's not that guy, and then he pulls out of it. Then he loses 2-3 seconds, and then the pass is over. And so I just feel like his racecraft massively needs to be better.
Yeah. I'm with you. You see it a lot in Supercross. He exactly what you just said.
Like right
He'll be
there,
racing
like that pass, like
yeah.
like when you have half of a wheel on a rookie, like that dude, ram it in there. I'm sorry, but like you own the turn at that point. Like you don't get shut down by a rookie. Like that. Like that's what
Yeah.
the pass is supposed to look like. Like, dude, take some ownership. Like make it happen. Don't put your wheel there and then pull
Don't
out
half-ass it.
and
Don't
lose.
half-ass
Yeah, and then lose 2 seconds. Like come on.
I love it, dude. Oh, you should be his coach. That'd be so good. You're like, come on, bro. That's how
I
I
would
feel a lot of times. I'm like, dude, take the
hire
damn
me.
pass. He
We'll
does
see
it in
if we can win a
Supercross.
title.
He's done it in Supercross. Like it's more evident in Supercross, I feel like, because he'll go in and like all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna try to make this pass. And it's the worst time. And then, like you said, then he won't be able to execute the rhythm lane that he just tried to pass the guy in before the corner before it, and he loses 2 seconds. So then it takes him two more laps to catch the guy back.
It's like
but
this
I do
yo-yo,
think,
and then your emotions are building and building. You're getting more frustrated, and you're just making, less clever decisions on the racetrack. And that's just what I see from Joe. I think that Joe, I still would say that Joe is almost my go-to as that can be the champion.
Yeah.
But he has to execute and start changing the things that we both just commented on. Otherwise, I think that, a guy like Cole Davies is going to get in there and eat him up.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, speaking of getting eaten up, Mitch and the whole Monster Energy Pro Circuit Cowie team, dude, they started off strong. Is there a Pro Circuit curse? The ACPC curse I like to talk about. They hadn't won a championship since AC back in 2019, Motocross 250 title. When we come back, we're going to break that down. I think they're at the tipping point. So when we come back, we'll break it down.
I was up there earlier, which is nice, and then just didn't have pace, honestly. Was uncomfortable, and yeah, it was just way off the pace. So it's okay. I'll take it on the chin, and I just wasn't urgent enough. I didn't have great pace, so I felt like I was a little off. I know the class right now, like everybody's not really putting it together. It's been up and down, and I'm, I need to take that step and try to get some good points in these next few races.
Welcome back, Title 24. Boxo breakdown. If you haven't, go to boxousa.com. Chad, you a Boxo guy? Do you have some equipment or what?
No, I haven't got the hook up yet.
Oh, dude, you got to get Curly to get on it, dude.
Get Curly. Curly's slacking.
Dude, he's slacking. Come on, JH. Make it happen. All right. So you heard Levi there, and I agree with what he said. A lot of we talked about it. You probably didn't watch it, Chad, but RV and I were talking about it. I'm like, you could really clean house as far as points perspective go in this 250 class. If you're able to just go a 2-2, a 3-2, and just be super consistent, because this is like a freaking roller coaster, dude, with guys going, 2-6, 1-7, whatever it might be.
I mean, 1 through 5 right there. I mean, you're 16 points out of it. And it's like, that's, again, you want to start, like the cream starts rising, and you want to be at the top version of that. You want to start being the one that figures it out. And like what you said, like, what Jett does well at winning titles is minimizing. What Haiden did to win this championship for a couple of years is just minimize those mistakes. Make your bad days. Like if you don't have the pace, like Kitchen just said, then you can't do things like that. You can't go, dabbing a leg and crashing, and you got to be on the podium every weekend. And like you said, I think he would have quite a large, championship lead if he was able to minimize those little mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, and he knows what he needs to do. Like he told us what he needs to do. And I just go back to, I go back to, I just like, why? Okay. If you know what you need to do, why aren't we doing that? And that's
My opinion on this, Levi in particular, and even a little bit, and actually less with his teammate, because his teammate has been in the championship hunt on Supercross the last 2 years. So, but like Levi has just this unbelievable talent, and when he's on, and it seems like when he's on, no one touches him, and it's always been like that throughout his career. But I think, to be fair to Levi, he never has been a title contender. Like I've never seen him really at the pointy end of the group in Supercross or motocross over a whole season of points chase and put himself in it. And so I think that he needs to take the last couple of rough weeks and turn them into, learning lessons, and start doing what we just said. Like, when you have it, you got to win. When you don't, you got to be second, and then I think that he'll find himself, he needs to learn, because he really hasn't been in that position. And winning is, in my opinion, a learned process, not a teachable, process.
Yeah, I think too, when you talk about, I think, so I don't know that, I don't think it's a PC curse. I just think it's, by happenstance, and it's situational with the rider that they have, or the riders that they have. I don't think that there's a curse there, because the team is plenty good. The riders are plenty good. And it's like you said, I believe if you know what you need to do, Chad, like an example of this would have been 03, when I was on that beautiful CR 250, and you had that, I don't know, like your bike was unbelievable in 03, but long story short, it's almost easier to me. It was knowing that, okay, all I got to go do is get second. I just got to get second behind you. And if the win is there, great. Like, not trying to overdo it. And I feel like a guy like Levi, you talk about like getting that championship experience. Like, if someone just said, hey dude, just go out there. If you get a 5th place start, just try to get second or third. You don't have to win. I think that if you were constantly reminding someone like that to do that, and here's the target, I think that he is capable and has the talent to do that. It just doesn't seem like that's happening. I want to give the benefit of the doubt that it is, but I don't know. It's like,
I agree with you on 100%, and I also don't agree in curses, nor do I believe in them. I think that it's much more factual than that. I think that, Mitch, and I know that he's probably one of my best, closest allies that I always talk to regularly, whether I'm at the races or during the week. He still participates and builds my 125s for my daughter, and so I still have a super, super close relationship with Mitch. But with saying that, I do believe that the sport and the industry has changed a little bit, and I kind of want to single him out, but I think that you have to group in the Kawasaki program as a whole is the last of the group to, let's say, set up a base or, something on the East Coast. I don't know that the West Coast is, as viable as it used to be. And I think the past 10 years almost of lack of results and no championships there's reason to that. I could, I feel like I could come up with some true facts that could help the program be better in the long run. And I think that the West Coast versus the East Coast is a real thing. I think he has 2 riders that can win the title, and they have similar reasons and ways that they need to learn. Going off of what you said, I think that Hammaker needs to do the same. I think that he lost the Supercross title last year and this year in very similar, situations. And I think that this particular crash right here is, it's funny, you know, like I'm your co-host here, and you and your co-host are like some of the only two people I know that at the level that you are and the capable capabilities. Two dudes that looped out. I think RV looped out at a MXGP, and then I remember your loop out was at a Pontiac Supercross 02 off the
Yep.
Gator back.
Yep.
You know, two of like when I think of looping out, I think that those are the only two things of bad dudes that can ride dirt bikes with some crazy skill that have looped out like that. You I remember that night. It was my only loss in Supercross, and then my man Nate Dogg got the W. But
He did. That was a
yeah,
wild main event, by the
was
way.
oh my God, nobody wanted to win. Anyway,
No.
so but I think that Seth and Levi need to essentially, yeah, like I hate to say that you have to win, right? Winning is what gets it done. But sometimes I think that there's a bigger process, and people are putting winning ahead of the process. And I think the process means that, you know, Seth, you have ruined opportunities over the last 2 years. Now, let's not worry or put the emphasis on winning. How do we put it on just being solid and remembering that it's lap one of a 30-minute plus two moto? Why are we doing mistakes like this? You know, I think that there's so much energy and thought process on like trying to contain him, trying to dumb him down so that he doesn't make these, where sometimes I almost think that he just needs to go for it. Like at this point, race like you have nothing to lose, because that mistake comes from, I don't know, that's just a weird one for me. And it's not like he was going for it. It's almost like it was just I don't know, it's just a strange crash and a mistake that you can't have happen, you know. Like luckily he's only 16 points out of it, but at some point that's going to cost you a championship.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Hopefully Seth will be all right. We need him in the championship because I think he does have, if he can get those type situations worked out, I think he can make a strong run at it. It'd be fun.
He has a champion's mindset. Like he's a little bulldog. Like he's gnarly. He bounces back from crashes, and he, you know, no matter the defeats that he takes, he always comes back strong. And it's hard to, you know, discredit a guy that's always going to be willing to get back up and swing for the fences. So it just needs controlling in maybe a better way. But I still highly rate, you know, Seth as a rider. I think that, you know, he's a bad dude.
Yep, absolutely. All right, when we come back, you only get your first moto or overall win once. We saw two of those this weekend, so we'll break that down on the final segment of the show. Chad has been absolutely killing it. It's been a lot of fun for me, selfishly. So we'll be back with you. Break it down.
All I wanted was podium. I'm going to be honest, I wanted to win, but my first race, I've never raced a lot of these girls, never raced this track, like in this atmosphere. I mean, I've never done anything like this, so I know I wanted to win, but I was putting that in the back of my mind and just saying podium I'd be still stoked with the podium.
Honestly, I was in shock when I found out I got the overall, because yesterday's performance was not good, and I honestly thought I kind of threw away any chance of a good overall result, but I knew I kind of had nothing to lose, and it's not over until it's over, and I needed this, and it's honestly made my weekend so much better, and yeah, I'm just super happy to get my first overall.
Welcome back to Title 24, final segment of the show, and great job and congratulations, Charlie. The women's WMX is, dude, it is super, super competitive, and these girls are racing at such a level that I've never seen before in my time, you know. So, Chad, you've spent some time. Glad that, by the way, Mayla is okay. Man, gnarly crash there. Brought out the red flag, but yeah, so she's gonna be okay. So thank goodness. Hate to see what happened there, but like I said, big picture, glad she's all right. What'd you think of this? Heck of a win by Charlie. You've spent some time around Mayla as well, I believe. What do you think of these girls, dude? I think it's impressive.
Yeah, the women's racing is definitely taken a step forward, and based here at Club MX, Lachlan Turner lives here as well, and so I get to
Yeah.
see her on a daily basis, and you see the work that she puts in, the pace that she can run on certain tracks throughout the property. She takes it to the boys. It's actually quite a it's fun to watch. So when you see her and her level of what she does, and then you see Charlie challenging and getting her first win this weekend, and then Mayla, Mayla only 17. She's Tate was racing her on super minis only a couple of years ago, and so I've got to witness Mayla riding probably over the last 3 years, and not a surprise at all. I mean, she's what I would call the new age, women's racing. She just has an understanding of the bike at a very high level, like watching this young girl on a super mini scrub and ride at the level that she has and what I've witnessed. And then for anyone that follows the women's racing, I think would be aware that she was on the podium and contributed massively to the USA team winning in Australia earlier in the year. Unfortunately, she had to wait the first couple of races because she wasn't of age to race pro. So on her birthday weekend, she goes and gets a race win. So I mean, from the work that I see that Lala does, and then but also respecting the send that that Mayla has, because she's not scared. Like that's what's probably the biggest thing that I would comment on the girls and the women's is the newer group. They are not scared to like again, I feel like at one point there was this stigma of like just the girls and they did it a different way, and it's not like that. Like I have a daughter, and so I'm the girl dad that's watching and trying to put a path forward for Kaya to participate in this championship when she's of age. And so I pay quite a lot of attention and see what they're doing, and they're really impressive. Their jumping game is improved. Like for me, that's the little things that they needed to get better at, which was the send and understanding the bike and how it works in the air and then jumping. And these younger group are really, really good at that. And so I think that that's the next step you're going to see.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like how they ride. You brought up something really, really good, and like watching like Mayla, for example, and not to say that like, I mean, Lala, she is badass. Charlie as well. I mean, they are absolutely sending it. But then you talk about like the next generation, which would be like Kaya, Mayla, like how they scrub, and just so like the little turn down stuff, just those little bitty, little small advances that go a long way. Yeah, you can see it right in front of your eyes. It's pretty cool. It's like very similar to like younger kids coming up. Like we talk about like the next generation, just those small little nuances that they do. It's super impressive. I'm stoked.
No, it is. Yeah, no, it is. And what I think that contributed to even Charlie's win, like it seems like the first laps, you watch her and she just doesn't have this flow. And then you watch her later in the moto and she kind of like has the flow and everything kind of starts to fall in together. And so I think in this, weeks off that she has, and the women's are gonna go and race in Australia and things like that, she just needs to work on her initial laps, because I think that that's Lala's, and also Mayla's strength is the first bit, and so Charlie just needs to work on that, and I think that she can have it like a three of them battling it out.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. All right, so Chad, Quad Lock question of the week. Quad Lock's been a partner of this podcast for a while, or since the existence of Title 24. They're from Oz, as you know. They make a killer product, and each week we have a Quad Lock question of the week. A whole bunch of fans and listeners, viewers, they send in their requests. It's tough to pick some out, but we have a winner this week. I like it just because it's not all about what happened this past weekend, and it kind of goes into a bigger bigger frame of mind and bigger, like a 30,000 foot view rather than like inside baseball. But the winner this week is Chelsea. And Chelsea wrote in, and I can't wait to hear this from you because you've done it a couple times. Chelsea, congratulations. Appreciate the support. You're also going to get 100 points to the Guts Racing for $100 credit, if you will, to Guts Racing. So thanks, Guts, for the added incentive. But quite a lot question of the week. My question is more picking your brains. Tips and suggestions for getting back on the bike after such a traumatic injury and length of time. Quick story about Chelsea. In October, she had an accident on the bike and tore her MCL, ACL, PCL, and meniscus, and tibial plateau fracture, and an artery bypass. Dude.
Damn.
Brutal. All right. So, Chad, you've had some challenging times, but you've come back like a soldier each time and just absolutely crushed it. What was your mindset coming back? And like Chelsea just asked, how would you attack it, and what would be your plan?
Yeah, I mean, that knee injury sounds all too familiar. Similar issues.
Is that what you did? Hey, is that what you did real quick? Is that what you did?
Very
Dallas?
similar, really close in Dallas, actually. So, I think the biggest thing is mindset of coming back. You go through the good, the bad, the ugly a little bit, in the off period. And so I think the biggest thing is just listen to the body. I think the body is always a good example of when it's ready. That's what I've always done, I guess, actually, to really make a comment on me personally, on my decision. And it's, as a dad, it's hard because it's like I always felt what I could feel to be ready, and then now I'm having to try to teach the children, hey, if you're hurt or whatever, like, I want you to feel this. And it's like, well, what is that feeling? And I think that it's just, what can you do without further damaging the injury? So obviously healing is key, and then outside of that, it's really just making a mindset, getting back fit, strong, make good life choices, that so that when you do come back, you come back better and stronger. And and then everything, I mean, as somebody had a similar knee injury, life is still good. I still get to ride my bike and do things, so life goes on, and you're gonna be just fine. Just do the right steps, because a month or 2 or 3 here, for the long term better health of your quality of life, it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Chelsea Alford, great question. I agree with everything that Chad said. Yeah, like for me, it was just the mindset. It actually was a blessing. I shouldn't say blessing, but when I tore my ACL and didn't race in 2004, it came at a time where I needed a break. I didn't realize that I needed that break until I actually got it. But like Chad, like I listened to what the doctor said, took my time. I think the biggest thing is, it was going to be a 4-month injury. I didn't want to come back too soon. I listened to what the doctor said. I didn't want to take a 4-month injury and turn it into an 8-month injury. And what I mean by that is trying to come back to a release. See, a lot of these riders, I feel like they push it too much. And I appreciate that they want to come back fast. But the worst thing you can do is like I said, take a 4-month injury and turn it into 4, or turn it into 8. So do that, listen to your doctors, and just believe in yourself. And I think too, when you come back, Chad, I think it's important to just, ease into it. Don't expect to come back, the first week and feeling like you did before you got hurt. I don't think that's realistic, so
there's different emotions tied to it, and good and bad, and enjoy the process of coming back for sure.
Yep. That's what I think. So best of luck with everything, Chelsea. Congratulations on winning the Quad Lock Question of the Week. Chad, it's been a hell of a show, my man. I've really enjoyed having you on. Selfishly for me, it's been great, because I always, first and foremost, I appreciate everything that you say and what you bring to the table, your influence, your impact that you've had on the sport, how involved you are, even especially with your kids. from an amateur standpoint, how you can make a positive impact in the racing, and what you bring is special. What you got going on from here on out, dude?
We're just grinding, just kind of like right now, it's been a couple of week reset, starting to get Supercross tracks built and, switch bikes over to Supercross and things like that. Kaya will turn 14, so she can, venture from the 125 to the 250. So really just taking the time to do that in the correct way. The goal was that Tate, if we end up going to Australia and racing Supercross, Tate would have about a 6-week build right after Loretta's. And you know how that is. I mean, it's a 2-month build into Loretta's, and then Loretta's, you're there for 10 days, it feels like, and then that you don't really want to come home and hit the ground running. You at least want to take a little time off. So honestly speaking, not going to Loretta's is kind of, it fits my picture that I want to paint for the kids in a better way. Really let Kaya have the time to get used to the 4-stroke and riding in the 250. Dad won't have to mix fuel anymore, which I'm quite excited about, if I'm honest. I love 2-strokes, but man, I genuinely don't enjoy mixing fuel. But other than that, Tate will just continue to ride, jump in and out of some motocross stuff, and then, but mainly really start to build his Supercross base, which means that I want to do it, like just with Father's Day yesterday, it kind of brings back a lot of memories of the things that my dad could do. And my dad taught me, work ethic, but outside of that, his life choices were not aligned with mine. And as a healthy 44-year-old guy that can ride Supercross, who better can teach my kid and try to be a good example and get back into shape and ride it and push him, because if he can beat me, then I would think that he's okay, because I can still fake it to make it on Supercross a little bit and get around. So if he can beat me in the whoops and he can hold his own on Supercross, then we're heading in the right direction. So I'm actually kind of excited, because selfishly I'm gonna, I plan to ride a bike a little more and get a bike to for Supercross and start riding with my kid. Ooh. Which you had have asked me 16 years ago, hey, do you see yourself at 44 years old, riding Supercross with your kids? I would have said I was crazy, but now I'm actually quite looking forward to it.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there anywhere that we can watch it? YouTube channel? What's up?
YouTube's done.
No, we're done with YouTube.
Yeah, follow my wife.
There you go. She does.
She's the better account. I'm old school. I live in the moment. I don't pull my phone out and take nearly as many videos as I should. And I see it, and I can't do it. Like, I can't pick a phone and do anything. Like, even at the races, when I see something, I have to, like, I don't know why, it just seems like I'm so locked in on the moment. The YouTube was awesome, but man, it was a lot of work.
Nonstop.
It was just a lot of work, and I'm not wired that way, just I give respect to people that are willing to share everything, but I'm too competitive to share everything. Like, I want to give my kid the tools to go be great like he says he wants to be, and I'm not going to show the world how that's done. So
I don't blame you, dog.
Yeah.
You know that. Yeah. I'm from the same school as you were, dude. I ain't sharing shit with anybody. Yeah. I'm not trying to make my job harder. I can tell you that much.
Nope. Yep. So, so my wife will share pieces along the way, and I'll tap it onto my stories or whatever. But for the most part, she's better at the social than I am.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, Aaron, before we let Chad go, roll the what's on NBC. Obviously, it's a weekend off. So here you go. Upcoming schedule. Buchanan, Michigan, Redbud. Love it. 4th of July weekend. You want to talk about a place that's going to be going off. Not a better facility to have Pro Motocross Championship round on 4th of July. Going to be a lot of fun. But again, that's 2 weeks time. Race day live will be at 10 a.m. That'll be live on Peacock, and of course the gate drop is at 1 p.m. Live on Peacock again, 4th of July, and then SMX Insider post race show presented by Bass Pro. That'll be live. That'll follow the broadcast, and then the video pass is also available outside the United States. SMX video pass. That's it. I'm sure these riders are looking for a nice weekend off. We got to thank our sponsors, Quad Lock, Boxo, Dunlop, Cardo, and Guts. We appreciate you guys. Remember, you can listen to this podcast on all the platforms, wherever you listen to your podcast. And of course, you can watch it if you want to watch it. You can watch it on Motorsports on NBC's YouTube page. Again, Chad, it has been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Thanks for filling in as a co-host. You did a fabulous job. Your insights are incredible, mate. They really, really are, and I appreciate you sharing them with us today.
Yeah, good times. Appreciate you having me, and hopefully RV gets busy and I can jump on another time.
You're more than welcome to come on whenever you want, brother. I appreciate it. Everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this show, and we'll see you next time.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you enjoyed what you just watched, well, you can get a whole lot more. Yes, it's time to bring the action and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel. You get all the news, highlights, reviews, the whole lot. So go for it.